So I got a laptop. This is my first laptop in 20 years. If you can believe that. My first laptop I ever owned was a Pentium 100 megahertz by Compaq. Had like 2 megabytes of RAM and maybe like a 250 megabyte hard drive, maybe 500 megabytes. I'm not even sure now, but that has been so long ago. But I had a company reach out to me and they asked me to review a laptop for them. I'll be honest, I've never heard of this company before. It is XK or XKMURT. They sent me this laptop free of charge for this review. So giving you that for full disclosure. But we're going to go in this video and we're going to go over all the specs of it. We're going to show you the ins and outs of it. I'm going to show you some footage that I recorded while using the laptop as well. And just give you my general ideas of how well this laptop works for the price that it is. But anyway, let's jump up here. Let's check this laptop out. Let's talk about the specs of it. And we'll tell you all the ins and outs of it. All right, so here we are on the Amazon website. This is where you can pick it up if you want to purchase for your own self. I'll leave a link down below if you want to actually grab this laptop. But it is an Intel N95 processor inside of it. It does not have a dedicated graphics card. It only has the integrated graphics that is included with the CPU. It does have a 16-inch screen, 500 gigabytes of storage on the SSD. It is not an NVMe drive. It is an SSD, just for reference. It is a quad-core CPU. It does not have hyper-threading, but it supports a whole lot of features. It's got a 16:10 display resolution. It's got a 1920 by 1200 resolution, which I thought was kind of odd for a laptop display, but anyway, that is what the resolution on the screen is. It has several USB ports. It has 4 standard USB Type A ports, a USB Type C port as well, a headphone jack, and it also has an HDMI connection on the side, so you can connect an external monitor to it as well. Also, the laptop has a really nice big trackpad on it. I personally am not very good with trackpads, so I plugged in a mouse. Mouse worked absolutely no issue whatsoever. Detected it. Plugged it up, everything worked really well that way. It is an extremely lightweight laptop because the body is all plastic. However, it doesn't really feel flimsy or anything like that, but it is extremely lightweight. I had no problem whatsoever, even for myself, with my limited, abilities and hand usage. Picked up the laptop, no problem. Opened up the screen, no issues whatsoever. Setup and installation of the laptop itself was really easy. Popped the power on, plugged up the power cable to it, which does have a really small included power cable. Charge time is relatively fast. Battery life, we'll talk about it a little bit later on when I show you some footage from where I was recording and also playing a game on it as well. Again, this does have integrated graphics. There is no dedicated graphics card. We'll talk about it some more as we go through the video, is how well the integrated graphics works with playing games and doing things like that. But generally speaking, this laptop is kind of geared toward productivity or being as a student. Being that I am a streamer and a content creator, I really want to see how well this laptop would work, how well it would work under pressure. So one of the first things I did was download The Sims. My wife is always on the laptop to be able to play The Sims on whenever she's not being able to get access to her own desktop computer. So I downloaded The Sim. She has every single expansion pack for The Sims 4. And so we were going to put this thing through the ringer just to see how well it would perform. And then I downloaded OBS as well. So we're going to show you some footage of me actually live streaming and recording while playing The Sims on this laptop. Okay, so let's pop up here, show this footage that I recorded while I was live streaming and also recording gameplay as well through OBS. And then after we go through that footage, we'll talk about some of the things that worked well, some of the things that didn't work well, and we'll go over a few more of the details about this laptop from XKMURT. Okay, so here we are inside of The Sims, and I mean, it's not bad for a integrated GPU on the Intel N95 CPU. Game is running relatively decently, and we'll go back and look at the recording in a minute just to see how well. So this next section of the video you're looking at right here is just directly from OBS. I recorded it just to give you an idea of a better picture quality as it's being recorded with a higher resolution. The original video that I showed you was from 720p at 30 FPS at a 6,000 bit rate, so much lower recording. So it was being recorded while I was live streaming at the moment, so it was taking the bit rate and the video quality directly from the stream. So that's why the original video was much lower quality. But as you can see right here, the game runs relatively smooth regardless of what's going on in the background. Again, I'm just playing The Sims. This is Batu for Star Wars expansion. And I was playing around, moving, my sim around. Just to give you an idea of what gameplay, how smooth or how jittery it was. And honestly, just recording straight gameplay this way, it did extremely well. No stutter, no issues whatsoever. I would not suggest, trying to play graphically intensive games on this laptop, but it does a remarkable job, at least in my opinion, of loading up games like this. I wouldn't try to play an FPS game or anything that took a lot of, graphic intensely, that required a lot of, heavy duty graphics or CPU power. But again, this is how well it works. It looks really nice. It does really well for playing, minor games. I imagine you can play Minecraft, a few other things like that. But again, such a nice job for integrated graphics. I was really shocked that it did as well as it has. But as you can see, here's the gameplay, and it's going to switch back in just a moment back to the original gameplay that I recorded while I was streaming. And I'm muting over my voice while I talk about this. But yeah, this is what it does, and this is what you should expect while playing or doing pretty much anything with this laptop. So the footage you just watched was recording using that laptop with OBS. Again, I was recording gameplay while streaming as well. The output resolution was 720p at 30 FPS. Again, I tried to put it through the ringer as best I possibly could. I tried it at 60 FPS, but there was no way it could have handled that. It was just so laggy and just so jerky that it was really unbearable to watch. Again, this is an integrated graphics on an Intel N95 CPU, so you shouldn't expect miracles when it comes to playing games. Again, I was really surprised that it handled it as well as it did. The laptop camera itself, you saw the footage for it. I messed with it a little bit, try to get it as as viewable as possible. Again, this is a laptop camera. The microphone, you heard what it sounded like as well. It is a laptop microphone, and it does pick up every single thing in the background. Sound quality is not great, but again, laptop camera, laptop microphone. I was actually really surprised that it handled everything that I threw at it without too much of a hiccups. With those screenshots up here, I did notice that CPU, it starts out with a base speed of 1.7 gigahertz, but I do notice that when it's unplugged, that it generally hovers around 1 gigahertz while unplugged. When you have it plugged up, I noticed that the max speed that I noticed was around 2.5 gigahertz. I did not see it boost anywhere near the 3.4 gigahertz top speed that it said it would do. But again, I mean, at 2.7 gigahertz, it ran relatively smoothly. Pretty much anything I threw at it. If you're going to be light web browsing, some light productivity stuff, some light gaming as well, it's going to handle it with no problem at all. Okay, so let's knock this out here. Let's talk about the good, bad, and ugly of it. The good aspects of it. It is a relatively nice laptop for the price point of about $400. It's geared toward light productivity and some, gaming or some light gaming that you can use as well. It handled what I put at it relatively well. Also, it isn't, didn't choke up. It didn't, crash, slow down, or anything like that. The bad aspects of it, it does have a plastic body, and it does feel plastic. However, it is really lightweight, so if you're going to be toting it in a backpack or, using it for work, it's not going to weigh you down. I think it's right at 3.5 pounds. So, again, it's not super heavy, not super light. But for me personally, I had no problem, using it, picking it up, carrying it around, in the house or anything like that. So that aspect of it is, a plus in the favor of it. The screen is actually really bright for this laptop. I was pleasantly surprised by that aspect. A lot of laptops, especially on the, less expensive, the brightness on them is not going to be quite as bright as you would hopefully. I wouldn't recommend trying to view this in full sunlight because this is just going to wash out. You're not going to be able to see the screen at all, most likely. The actual viewable screen is about 14.2 inches. So it's, really nice size, for a laptop, at least in my experience. Again, this is my first laptop that I've had in probably 20 years. So I was, I was expecting pretty bad, with integrated graphics, but I was, really surprised that it did what it did and handled, what I threw at it. Like I said, they could have opted for maybe an NVMe drive to give you some faster speeds, but SSD, for what you're going to be using it for most times, like I said, light productivity, schoolwork, things like that. SSD should be sufficient enough speed-wise as far as anything you need. But again, it would have been nice to have an NVMe drive. It would have bumped up the price a little bit. It does come with 16 gigs of LPDDR4 RAM. It is a SODIMM. measured at 3200 megahertz. So a decent amount of RAM for the laptop. Had I not been recording, or had I not been trying to stream and record at the same time, I believe it would have performed a little bit better than what I did. But again, I was just trying to throw pretty much everything I possibly could at it, just to see if I could, just to see if it would kill it. One thing I haven't touched on is the battery life. I had it unplugged while I was recording and streaming. The battery was initially at 78%. After trying to record that video multiple times and testing it out, within about a 30-minute period, the battery had dropped down to 12%. So if you're going to do anything moderately heavy, it's going to require CPU usage. You definitely want to plug it up, because you're going to kill the battery relatively quickly. If you're just using it, like I said, for schoolwork or some light productivity stuff, it's going to serve you well. Battery's going to be okay while you're doing that. But again, if you're going to be trying to do anything remotely intensive, you're going to need to plug the laptop up. The charger cord for the laptop is really small, really lightweight, so it's not going to take up a whole lot of space in your backpack or bag or whatever however you're going to be carrying or transporting it around. So easy to tuck away, out of the way, if you're going to be using it that way. All right, so what do I think about it overall? I'll be honest with you. For the price point, for the integrated graphics, I was expecting it to be absolutely horrible. But I was really surprised that it performed as well as it did with the specs that are included with it. Like I said, boost speed, I only managed to see around 2.5 gigahertz. Never saw the 3.4 gigahertz that it claims. Even with it plugged up and even with performance mode enabled, I never saw it go. But maybe just for a brief second at 2.7 gigahertz. Nowhere near the 3.4 gigahertz that it claims. Integrated graphics, for what it is, it does a really nice job. Laptop itself, relatively flimsy. It does have a plastic body, and you can tell that the body of the laptop is plastic. So overall, what do I think? $400, relatively decent price tag. It's not extremely high. It's actually cheaper than, some of your budget phones or mid-grade phones that you have, and you're gonna get a lot more use out of it than the phone as well. Laptop performance as well was really, really nice. It was better than I expected. Like I said, the only issues I had with that included SSD versus the NVMe drive. The one, SODIMM, which 16 gigs of RAM, which, I mean, for the most part, what it's intended for, you're not going to have any issues with having only 16 gigs of RAM. Storage expansion, limited to an SD card. So you can have like around 1 terabyte with the SD card. But again, a lot of phones nowadays do not have SD card port on it. So you got to keep that in mind, the pluses and the negative. But battery life, again, relatively decent. Anyway, guys and gals, I want to thank SK Mert for sending me this laptop to test out and review for this video. If you want to pick it up, I'll leave a link down in the description below. It will be an affiliate link. If you want to grab it for schoolwork, some light gaming, things like that, it's going to get the job done for not a hefty price tag at all. Anyway, until next time, much love, peace out, and we'll see you soon.